Hello, and welcome to Humans of Reliability. Today, I am joined by Nathen Harvey, who is currently a developer advocate at Google and the lead for DORA. So I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Great. Thanks so much, Ashley, and thanks for having me on. As you said, my name is Nathen Harvey. I lead up DORA at Google Cloud. Now, maybe you've heard of DORA, maybe not. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it. But in short, DORA is a research program that's been looking at how do teams get better at delivering and operating software. And our tagline is we want to help teams get better at getting better. DORA is all about a process and a mindset and a practice of continuous improvement that goes for delivering software, operating software, and everything in between. And we look a lot at the human factors as well. We really care, we understand that people are the things that come first.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm sure many of the people who watch our little show here are very familiar with DORA. So
Great.
I'd love to actually hear a bit about how you first got involved with DORA. Was it through the Google acquisition or were you already involved in it? How did that come to be?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. DORA started over a decade ago, as I mentioned. And so I think the way I first got involved was when Puppet, who started this research program, sent out a survey. At the time, I was responsible for managing a bunch of web applications. So I participated in the survey. I was one of the first participants in that survey.
Oh, cool.
But then over the years, I've, of course, changed roles. I was working at Chef Software for a long time. While I was at Chef, I worked together with Dr. Nicole Forsgren, who was part of the DORA team. Jez Humble, also part of the DORA team. We all worked together at Chef. Nicole and Jez left and founded a company called DORA. And then about a month after I joined Google Cloud, DORA, the company, was acquired by Google Cloud. So I got back together with Jez and Nicole, and it was super fun. And so I've kind of taken over leading up DORA within Google Cloud since that time.
Okay, very cool. Very serendipitous
Yeah,
that you
indeed.
ended up, full circle moment.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I'd love to also talk a little bit more about specifically the DORA community, because I know that
Yeah.
that's something you're involved in, maybe even started. I'm not actually sure exactly what happened there, but tell us all about that and how that came to be and what the goals and, what should people know about the DORA community?
Yeah, for sure. So, my team of advocates here at Google Cloud, we work with customers all the time, sort of helping them take the research and put it into context for their teams, and then using that research and context and ideas to actually drive improvements. And one of the things that we encountered was from one customer to the next, a lot of the questions were very, very similar. And so this really just told us we had to create a way to bring all of these folks together. And so in 2022, we launched the DORA community, and you can go to dora.community to join that community. But the community itself is made up of practitioners, of leaders, and of researchers all in this space, trying to figure out how do we improve developer productivity? How do we make better connections between what we're doing with technology and the business and customer outcomes that we're trying to drive for? How do we ensure that we're doing so in a way that improves the well-being of everyone on the team in our organization so that we can do things like, reduce burnout, increase job satisfaction? What technologies, what practices are really helping with all of that? And so the DORA community itself, we get together. So first we have a mailing list where we have deep discussions around, the nuances of some of the 4 key metrics around DORA, but also how are you putting some of these ideas into practice? And then we also host regular virtual meetings where we'll get together with maybe a subject matter expert who will kick off a conversation. But then most of our conversations are run using the lean coffee format. So it's really open. Every participant that is there gets an opportunity to propose topics, and we talk about the things that are top of mind for the people that are there right now. It's a super great way to connect and stay engaged with this community.
Yeah, very cool. I think I saw, did you have Steve McGee on a Lean Coffee recently?
We probably did. He's part of the DORA community, a coworker, of course, so a reliability advocate here at Google Cloud. And he's definitely part of the DORA team as well. He helped author the 2022 and the 2023 report.
Yeah, Steve is awesome. He's been a guest on this show as well, and he's so full of knowledge and interesting stories. But I love the
Absolutely.
DORA email chains. I'm on those community emails, and it's really thoughtful discussion that happens on those, and it's really interesting to see different people weigh in. And that's the type of thing I think about, like the early days for me of building incident response programs, and like
Yeah.
that's what I needed is how are you guys doing this? It felt like we were just kind of making it up as we went along or pulling from, this is before like right before the SRE book was published, and we were looking at like, well, what do hospitals do? What do airlines do?
Right.
Like trying to find all these examples, and to be able to talk to people from other tech companies and figure out what they're doing is so, so helpful.
Yeah, we learn so much by experience and we have so much to offer. And I try to remind people of this all the time. Even if you feel like you're just getting started, you still have something to offer to that community. And as a community together, we can also hopefully help avoid or spot some of the pitfalls that teams might fall into. And certainly as you're trying to drive change, there are lots of pitfalls that you can fall into. So just having that community of supporters, I always say you can't do this alone, right? You can't improve reliability alone. You can't improve software delivery performance alone. You can't improve your customer's experience alone. But together, we can learn and help and support one another along those journeys.
Totally. There are so many things that I wish someone had floated down and said, hey, that's actually a bad idea.
Right. Right.
And it's not going to work. That would have been helpful. But, sometimes you learn the hard way too. But it's great that there's so many more resources now. And so you're in a developer advocate style role. Is that something that you kind of intentionally work towards, or was a goal, or is it something you sort of naturally evolved into? What was the journey to that advocate actually like full-time role?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely something that kind of evolved. I had no idea that this was what I wanted to do when I grew up. Actually, I'm still not sure what I want to do when I grow up, but developer advocacy is a good place for me right now. Like I said, I was working in an organization managing a bunch of infrastructure. We were automating all of that infrastructure using Chef. So I had kind of found the Chef community. And I really just fell in love with that community. And I had this great opportunity to join Chef to lead the community. And so I was in charge of community and engineering, parts of engineering, at least the open source side of engineering. So there was a lot of great stuff that I learned there. And that's really where I feel like I really sort of evolved into a developer advocate. And after 6 years at Chef, I decided I was ready for a change, and I landed here at Google Cloud, where I've been advocating for SRE practices since I joined, for all of the things in the DevOps space, and of course now my primary efforts are around DORA.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love when people naturally evolve into this type of role. I definitely relate to that journey when I was first approached about the developer relations reliability advocate role I'm in now here at Really. I was like, I don't know what developer relations is. Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. So it took me a second to even understand like what the role was that was being pitched to me. But then once I understood it, I was like, oh, I do that stuff.
Exactly. And it's one of those roles that is so, like, there are so many different definitions and so many different ways of doing it. I find that oftentimes the people that make the best developer advocates or developer relations professionals are the people that have done the work, so that you understand the mile that the people you're talking to have walked, right? Whether that's in incident response or configuration management. Like, I've done that work. I know the challenges you're running into, and so I have a lot of empathy for you, and I can really see what you're working on.
Yeah. Plus, it got me off of a pretty gnarly on-call rotation. So
Well,
that's
I mean,
always
there is that
great.
plus. Yes. Yeah.
I was like, I can talk about it and not be on
Mhm.
call all the time.
Mhm.
Wow, that
Mhm.
sounds really great.
Yeah.
Um, so the next question I have for you is maybe like a mildly spicy, like a
Cool.
3 chili peppers out of 5,
Okay.
because I'm really curious for your take on this whole discourse around DevOps versus platform engineering. Is DevOps dead? Do you see these things as fundamentally different terms, or is this all just kind of like semantics that we do in tech?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question. I think that, I was a system administrator, and then I was doing DevOps, but I still identified as a system administrator in the DevOps community, right? And then DevOps, and then SRE. So maybe folks went from system admin to a DevOps engineer to an SRE, and now platform engineering. Look, I think at the end of the day, all of these disciplines are really about how do we use technology to best deliver customer value, to best drive our businesses forward. Yes, there are different techniques. There are even different names that we use. Unfortunately, just sort of the nature of the business, the nature of the beast is that over time, the definition or the meaning of a particular word tends to get watered down and changed and mutated. And DevOps as a movement, as a community, as a philosophy, has always been one that has shunned an official definition. And that vacuum kind of means that everyone gets to decide, what does DevOps mean? And so, I worry honestly that DevOps, although it was born from a place of inclusivity, has become a little bit too exclusive, right? I hear the word DevOps and, oh, that's not me. That's someone else. That was never the intent, right? And maybe I do identify as a platform engineer, so that's what I'm going to call myself. That's great. That's great, because that feels like the work that you're doing. So I think that when you kind of get down to the first principles, the fundamentals of DevOps or SRE, of platform engineering, it's all about how do we improve the lives of the people that we're working with and provide better value through the use of technology. I think all of that is the same. It would be wrong to say that those labels don't matter, though, because they absolutely do. It helps us identify our community, our tribe, if you will. And so I do see that evolving over time, and it will continue to evolve. We'll call ourselves something next after platform engineers, I'm sure. Probably something to do with AI, just given the current trends, right? Or maybe we'll just ask an AI what our next title should be, and it will give us the right answer there. Who knows? So I guess I don't know, maybe I took your 3-pepper spicy thing and I knocked it all the way down to 1 pepper and said, we're all the same. We're all trying to deliver the same value. We're working together. Yes, of course, there are different names. It's okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think naming things and having terms and defining things is helpful. But, when the pendulum swings so far that it just becomes all about gatekeeping and you're not doing DevOps work, it's like,
right.
I don't think it has to be, an exclusive type of thing, but I think that that's a great take.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the problems with phrasing like DevOps is dead. Like that can be very hurtful to someone who today is in a role as a DevOps engineer. Please don't tell them that they're dead or that their work doesn't matter, because it truly does. There may be other ways of doing that work. And in fact, some ways, depending on what they're doing, there may be some better ways to do some of what they're accomplishing. But using language like DevOps is dead, I think is really hurtful. It will be the same when someone comes along and says platform engineering is dead. It's not the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things are created to be intentionally inflammatory to get attention, but I totally agree. I think we see a lot of similar discourse in even like the developer relations and advocacy community.
Yep.
If you're a proper DevRel, depending, some roles index a little more towards community or marketing, some are more towards enablement. Like there's all different versions of it. And they're all just as legitimate as another. It probably just depends on what the business needs. But if you identify your work as developer relations or advocacy or whatever it is, and that's a helpful definition for you, then I think that's great. I don't think there's any reason we need to tell people they're not like doing it right because they're doing it differently.
Absolutely. If you're engaged in the work, you love the work that you're doing, you're helping, it's bringing you joy and pleasure and helping you advance your career, great. If changing your title gets you a pay raise, great, go change your title, do that too. But just make sure that the work that you're doing, look, you spend a lot of time working, make sure it's valuable for you.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. DevOps is not dead. And it's a lot of different things, and that's totally fine. So outside of the DevOps and tech world, what do you get up to, Nathen? What are you passionate about?
Oh, I love doing a bunch of things outside of work. Of course, I have 3 children. They're mostly grown, so I love spending time with them and visiting. I love traveling, and I love bourbon and beer also. So
I also love bourbon and beer. I am a parent as well, but he's almost 7, so very different phase of parenthood.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's super awesome. My wife also owns a little. She and her twin sister own a little clothing boutique. So I have a side gig as the summer intern there, and I get to help out at the store sometimes.
Very cute. And that's in Annapolis. You're in Maryland?
Annapolis. Yep, that's right. Yep.
Nice. I have not been to Maryland. I would really like to. It looks adorable. Like you see the pictures. I love that entire area. I took a train last year, a couple years ago, from Providence into New York City and went all through Connecticut, and it's just so charming.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And Annapolis is a beautiful town. I would definitely encourage you to visit and let me know when you do. I'll take you to all the best restaurants.
Amazing. Well, that is all the questions that I have for you today, Nathan. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It is much appreciated. And I think your episode is going to be one that a lot of people are really excited to see.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ashley. It's been a real pleasure coming on.